Hi, I'm Erin Palmisano, and today I'm snacking and yakking with Big Ben Kennedy.
That's right. Today, I am in the studio remotely with my friend who is in New Zealand. She is a New Zealand best-selling author. You know what? I'm leaving it. I don't know how many times I can say it and mess it up. I'm leaving it. Author. Gosh. Yes, and a friend of mine from way back in the days of Maryland. This is my friend Erin Palmisano. Hi,
Hi.
Erin.
Hey.
Erin, so good to see you again. We just
I
saw each other a
know.
few weeks ago when
I
we tried
know.
to do
It's
this
great to
episode.
see you.
We did
Again.
this episode. We had a very good time connecting and catching up and all that stuff. And unfortunately, we didn't get to talk about her new book or even her old book very much, which was really terrible because they're really good. And so I really want you to learn about these, but instead you would have learned about things that you'd have no idea what the heck we were talking about. I was looking at the footage and I said, "Hey, would you be offended if we did a redo?" And she said, I was thinking about that too because
Same thing.
it seems like people are going to think that they picked up the phone during somebody else's phone call. Like that was the way you described it. And it was
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect. I couldn't have thought a better way. It was just like, man, they'll enjoy the fact that we're laughing. They'll enjoy the fact that, like, I don't know what they're talking about, but they're having fun. But we didn't tie it around to the books. I didn't do my part as a host. I fell short.
Well, you did a great job as a host, as like my friend host, so it was awesome.
Right, there you go. As hosting a get together, I did a great job. As hosting a internet show, I did not. So let's go ahead and let's discuss the books that I have come to already introduce. These are Erin's books, two of them, and the first two, because there will be a new one in the works. There's a new one in the works that'll be out soon enough. But this is the bestseller that we spoke of, Secrets of the Little Greek Taverna.
I've heard Taverna and Taverna, depending on where people are from. So whatever sounds more
Now,
natural to you.
okay, so Taverna.
Okay.
Um and so that was the one that kicked it off for you. That one, just to go ahead and touch on it really briefly, that one was you explained a writing challenge during the pandemic, kind of
Ex-
launched you into that one.
yeah, exactly. It was there used to be a writing program. I guess it's a website called National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. It's recently shut down, which is devastating because they've really been inspirational with my writing. And basically what it is it's an annual writing challenge. You pick the amount, usually it's 50,000 words in 30 days. And it's normally November, but they now do sort of a camp one in the middle. So it's just these, you can do it anytime you want, this writing challenge. But this was very special because a lot of people all over the world sign up at the same time. You don't, pay for anything. So it's kind of this like everybody's out there like trying to get their book out at the same time,
The
and
Eurovision of book writers.
yeah, pretty much. It's very cool. So and they did a special one for because the whole world went into lockdown in March 2020, and
Yep.
so they did it was April 1st to April 30th writing challenge, and I said, well, I don't I don't have a job because nobody does. Restaurant owners are not essential
I
skills at
did.
that time. Yeah,
Yeah.
you would have. Yeah,
I
everybody in my
never
family
stopped.
did. Thank God. But yeah, we just had this 7 week very. It was actually a really beautiful. I hate saying it, but it was a really beautiful lockdown because it was really short. The
Right.
weather was gorgeous, and it was just this really transitional time for people to just stop. And we go all the time,
Yeah.
and everybody just stopped and walked outside, socially distanced, and it was just this really lovely time. But I thought, I've been writing for my whole life, and I'd always wanted to publish a novel though, and I thought that if not now, when I don't
Right.
have anything else to focus on. And so I did that writing challenge and I finished 50,000 really bad words at the end of those 30 days, and then spent about a year editing it. But yeah, that started there. It actually, I think I mentioned to you last time, I started when I sat down to start writing that book. I actually was doing a travel memoir, not a fictional
Correct.
book.
Right. Because that's
Because
the
I,
Rory character.
yeah,
Rory is you,
yeah.
as I remember you, because we were these kids in Maryland. We were Pasadena Glen Burnie kids, and you decided, well, I'm done school, so I'll never see this place again. And you just went off. What started in a trip to California, what started as relocating to California to pursue an acting dream, then just became a
Hey guys! Have you been to patreon.com/Snackin Yakkin? There's a bonus podcast, behind the scenes content, and more. That's patreon.com/Snackin Yakkin. Bye!
maybe I don't want to act. Maybe I just want to soak up some of that LA restaurant money and go see the world instead. And you just never stopped. I would read posts of yours. I'm here now. I'm here now. I saw a bullfight. It was terrible. Like I mean, I followed you. It was like this travel blog of sorts. So if you would have written that book, I would have bought it just the same as these because I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to hear more about those. So it
Yeah,
was really
I
really
did.
great.
I did. I've traveled a lot, and it was my major passion for, I guess, a third of my life. Maybe more, maybe half. And yeah, so I traveled, and I just had so many experiences, and I wrote those travel blogs and emails and stuff to friends, and that was some of my best writing. And I have a really massive collection of all of those printed out, and I had them sitting in front of me. I had a title, and I was just going to sift through and just, so I started reading through, printed everything out. First day of lockdown, April 1st, I was sifting through all of these old blogs, and suddenly found myself feeling like this, I don't want to say depressed, but really just like this anxiety of like, wow, this, like the silence of the world in this lockdown really just hit me in that moment as I'm reading
Yeah.
about the sounds of tuk-tuks and being in Egypt, and this world that I was so excited about writing about, all these travel experiences, and never knowing when they were going to happen again because it was so unknown.
Right.
Like everything
And
about that time.
would you feel like you were just like bragging at that point? Like, haha, remember when we could do this stuff? I would have thought that would have been like a concern. Like you want to release this and it can go one of two ways. It can be a good nostalgia for people for the good old days, or it could be like, listen to this woman, like who's going to go to, such and such now, and I
Yeah.
bet you that's anxiety inducing a bit too, because you have to know what your audience, you didn't know what the social or the entertainment landscape was going to be. None of us did. We
Yeah.
didn't
And
know if comedy was going to come back. We didn't
exactly.
know anything.
Yeah. And I think what you really hit on there was that the difference between me writing this book and writing blogs and writing at home when I sat down to do this challenge was I was writing a book to publish. And so you do have an audience in mind. And I said, well, not only do I not want to be writing about my past right now, I want to be writing what I want to be reading, which is pure escapism.
Right.
And I do love the destination, but it needed to be lighthearted. And I just thought, gosh, everybody else out there, if this ever gets published, will need something lighthearted. We all need
Oh yeah.
something a little bit lighthearted. And so I did take the character. It's Jory St. James. Her name is Marjorie St. James.
Sorry, I said Rory, Jory.
It was funny that you said that though, because I was like, huh. It was the first time that I realized that Rory from Gilmore Girls, who's like, I love that show, and Jory like sound the
I
same.
think
I'm
that
like,
was what I
oh,
was thinking of too.
it's really
Yeah.
interesting. So yes, I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to write about, but I am going to write about a destination, and I am going to utilize all of this travel experience that I've had, at least in my lead character, even if it's going to be a fictional piece. And so I still did get to sort of vicariously live through Jory, who I decided to go to Greece, to Naxos in Greece. And
Now
yeah, it
you
was,
had been there though, right? You
I
had been
had,
to Naxos. Now
yes.
okay, so in reading what I had read of it, I focused more on the second book, as I said in the beginning of this that I would be. because of the ties that we'll get to in a second. But the first book, as I was digging into it, and I decided, scrap it, we're doing the new book. Um, I was picturing, because I one of my favorite romantic comedy-ish kind of movies, and you said it was a chick book, and it most certainly is.
It is.
One of my favorite movies growing up, if I was ever going to pick like a romantic kind of movie, was Only You, which featured Marissa Tomei and
And
Robert
Robert
Downey
Downey
Jr.
Jr. Yeah, that
Okay,
is
so
so
while that
funny.
took place in Venice, I was the scene I was, the cobbled streets and I was picturing that kind of setting, and I was picturing, and I think I kind of visioned her as like a Marissa Tomei type character where she's like kind of, not nutty, not neurotic, but she's just like kind of feeling it out, like she seemed like you have to have that relatable character. So I always thought that Jory was like, I felt like she was like that. So I kind of was leaning down that. So then I said, wait a second. And I looked up pictures of Naxos, and it's a lot more cluttered, like tight. It's a
Mm.
tight place. Like it's not like the streets were narrow, and it seems like there's like this beautiful water, beautiful island, and then this cluster of everything right in the, and I was just like, okay. And I tried to then understand that as I went to revisit it. But like I said, laying in my bunk at work, I was just like, I think I want to dig into the other book because of what it means, or
Yeah.
where it takes place, and what it kind of means to someone like me of sorts. Um, being that it is a book, the sequel, not the sequel, sorry, there's a mention, but it's kind of like not. But Secrets of Maiden's Cove. And Maiden's Cove is a fictional little seaside village on the Chesapeake Bay, and that is in good old Maryland, which is where we are from. So I thought I've already established with my viewers that I'm from Maryland. It is well known, Glen Burnie, Glen Burnie, Glen Burnie, Glen Burnie. And so I was like, I definitely should focus on this new book. And also, I told you before we started filming the the setting, much like the Little Greek Taverna, the setting for this one, the kind of the anchor point for you, and we'll talk about why, is restaurants. Restaurants tend to be the anchor points in your book. It takes place in a larger world. It takes place in Maiden's Cove. It takes place in Naxos, but it comes down to the little, little restaurant, little place,
Yeah.
little bed and breakfast, just takes place in this little hospitality thing, which I remember you being, like I said, big hospitality over at over in California to fund your travels, but then you are now settled in New Zealand, and you and your partner, his name is again
Dan.
Dan. You're restaurateurs. You have three.
We do. Yeah, we met. So I started in hospitality when I was 19, 18,
Yep.
18. Um, I'm old now, so it's been a while. Uh, but yeah, yes, it was in some ways just a job for making money. But I fell in love with the hospitality world. I mean, I worked in LA on the Sunset Strip. It was fun. Um, so and it really is this world in and of itself. And I just really fell in love with that. And then when I started traveling, um, I my love of I was introduced to food in the restaurant world, but I and wine, but I wouldn't have said I was like a massive foodie yet. And then when I
Right.
started traveling, I always loved food, always. But when I started traveling, food became like, if I said like food, travel, wine. Like, I don't really differentiate them. They're like my favorite things, but they so go together. And food and travel was such a massive thing for me. And then when I came back after my first trip and went back to hospitality, really became much more interested in the food and the wine, and um, super passionately. And that's a lot of my trips really focused on food and stuff after that. So when I moved here to New Zealand 16 years ago, I was on a working holiday visa at the time. And I moved to Nelson, which was a town that I'd traveled to before, and I loved it. And of course, I was, going to get a job in hospitality. And there was this lovely little restaurant called the Boat Shed Cafe. and I went to start working there. And Dan, my partner, had just bought the restaurant. He's a chef, and
Wow.
so we worked together, just worked together for this really crazy busy summer. It was like just because opposite seasons here, so
Oh, okay.
December to February is summer. And then yeah, sometime at the end of February, sort of after this crazy season, we started dating. And I'd never met somebody that like had shared such the same love of like food and wine. Like we just both loved food and wine so much, and we were really both like, hospitality was more a lifestyle for us, not just a job. Like, whereas
Right.
a lot of other people are just like, oh yeah, it's just my job for the summer, and then I'll go do my real job. We were, we always said we might be lifers, like, at
So over
that point.
there, does it fall like with a lot of European places where there's like the lunch, the shutdown, the reset, the dinner time? Do they do that over there, or is that
They do.
like
We don't. But
okay, okay.
yeah, quite a few restaurants do. But we actually just got back from Sicily, and it was like literally you had this window from 12 to 2 for lunch, but if you go at 12, you're American. Don't do it. You have to go at 1 or 1:30, but then if you go at 2, it's finished. So like you've
Right.
got these, and then dinner wouldn't the restaurants wouldn't even reopen until 7:30, usually, sometimes 8 o'clock.
Right, 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 right.
So it's not like that. We don't have a real late night thing here. But a lot of places sort of do close, but like 3 to 5, that just sort of give it a break.
Okay.
But we don't. We like our restaurants to be open all day, which I'm sure our staff love as well. Um,
If you've ever watched Food Network a day in your life, you know Charleston, South Carolina, because they're here all the time. And that is where I presently live. But this was the first time I encountered restaurants being closed on Sundays and Mondays, or Mondays and Tuesdays, to get the stuff in, to prep food,
yeah.
I was used to Baltimore, man, 7 days a week, everything's open, nothing closes, and I come down here and I'm like, hey, we should go to such and such, and it's like, no, we're closed on Monday, and it's like, really? And then you go there and there's the U.S. Foods truck or the Cisco truck, and they're dropping off and it's like, oh, I get it. So when you watch
Yeah.
those diners, drive-ins, and dives where the guy's like, yeah, this pork has been soaking for 72 hours, and it's like, well, when are they doing that? And it's like, oh, they're doing that on Monday.
Yeah.
Like they're setting up their week. And I just thought it was pretty cool. We also have restaurants in town that are open until they run out.
Oh
Once
wow.
they run out of food, they close. They're like, sorry, we're out. And you know it, and there's lines out the door. It's a
That's
very
amazing.
weird thing, but a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of influences like this. So I was wondering how that food culture, how that restaurant culture was for you there. I thought it was very, very curious. So but yeah, so to continue, so you write from what you know. So you know that hospitality side and you
Yeah.
know that travel side, and that's a big theme with the first book
Yeah.
is travel and food. Particularly um Cressida with the kind of touch of magic to her cooking that kind of you imagine like ratatouille when the guy eats it,
Yeah.
it goes into his childhood, it's just kind of like, and he's like, you know um that's it's like magical in the fact of like, chocolate, or it's got one of those things, but it's not like hammy, and you have some magic in the second book too, which is really cute because my daughter, it reminded me of her, and I'll tell you that too. But going into Maiden's Cove, let's bring it to that. So you do write for what you know, and once again, a restaurant does show up, and but a traveling thing is a little different this time. This is the world traveler come home. This is kind of return from Oz.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
For
yeah,
Isla, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
you're home, and it's different. It's neat. And I don't know this place that, I mean, I don't know the place that you're writing for, but I can surely tell you it felt like it existed. You know, it it
yeah. It
is
was
it is Eastern
the
Shore. It is, yeah.
the that book came together really really interestingly. I'm glad we did talk about the first book a little bit, because it was actually, as I said, I wrote the first book in 30 days. So when I my writing style is I go in with a very small idea and just see where I go and let the characters tell me the story. So a lot of what that means after a first draft is that it's really messy and it can be
Right.
like 3 or 4 stories and then you have to really work on it. So I'd been editing I'd been editing for a few months on my own, and then I decided because I really wanted to try and publish this, and I thought that the book had, I thought a destination book. I thought it had a good chance that people might want to read it. It's a
That's awesome.
you're not supposed to say chick lit these days, but it is. It's about friendship and food and a destination. It's like there's an
Yeah.
audience for I'm an audience for that, so I thought maybe there would be another one. And because of that, I thought I really need to put this book in somebody's hands that can make sure that when I submit it, it's the best it can possibly be. And I called on my childhood best friend Andrea, who I've known. So we met when we were 12, which is the same age that the girls Isla and Grace meet in the book.
Right.
Like I have to sometimes remember. I get my characters mixed up all the time. I'm like, which book was that? But Isla and Grace also meet in Maiden's Cove when they're 12, and anyway, Andrea and I, we always kept in touch, but not on a regular basis. And she's a brilliant writer and a teacher, English teacher as well, professor. And I asked if she would edit my book. Who better to do so? And
Absolutely.
and she said, "Yep, absolutely." And it took us a little while because obviously both have lives. Lockdown was still happening over in your part of the world, so
Yeah.
it was a little bit
You
different.
guys mastered that. You were shut down for like no time at all, and we couldn't get it right. It was terrible.
We
America
didn't
could
get
not
it.
get it
We
right.
didn't get it right the towards the end, but oh, it's look. We have 5 million people in an island that is far away from anywhere else in the world. Like hardly any other country had that gift. Like
Right, that's
we're
true.
far
That's
away,
true.
So yeah, but yeah, it was still that time.
Also,
So
not bad if you want to turn around and be a best-selling author.
this is
You
true.
kind of just like said, "Hey, I only had to conquer 5 million people on a very small island." Well,
Pretty
yeah,
much.
there
I
you
know.
go,
Whenever
bestseller.
somebody's
I'm
like
teasing. I'm
bestseller, I
teasing.
was like, yeah, there's like 5 of us here, so it wasn't as hard as it is to like
No,
break into
but
a
no,
different.
but I mean, like you don't have like a name that smacks of like Australia or New Zealand. You're not like a local or a native. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you don't have that going for you. Like, oh, it was easy, like shooting fish in a barrel. No, you're an American-born, author, and you're writing this time. But still, congrats on conquering another country like that. Like, well, it's released in 4 countries, right?
It is, yeah, it is. The UK, the US, and the first book was, and Australia and New Zealand, obviously. But the first book was also translated to Portuguese and was sold in
That's
Portugal, where,
awesome.
yeah, so that was really cool.
But not sold
Um,
in Greece.
no,
Doesn't make any sense.
I know. Well, the Greek,
What's the fear? What's the fear?
I don't know
No,
how
not
that
you.
side of it
You're a
works.
publisher, not you. Not you.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll have to
Yeah.
be like, hey, by the way. Um, anyway, I don't remember where I was in the story. Oh,
No, no, no,
Andrea.
no, no. There you go.
I got it. Okay. Yeah, so no, Andrea was editing my book, and as she was editing, we were conversing almost every day on Messenger. We were just chatting and a lot of reminiscing about our childhood, and we would throw our old phrases back and forth, like our summer sisters and blah blah blah, and it was just really nice to reconnect in that way. And we finished the book right around New Year, and I remember saying to her, "Hey, if nothing ever comes of this book, I am so grateful that it sort of brought us together, in this way."
That's sweet.
And she typed back, "That's what soul sisters are for." And I literally opened my computer, pulled out my file from my mermaid story, which I'd had for about 20 years, and finally knew what the story was. And I wrote, first line I wrote was, one from the land, one from the sea, summer soul sisters, forever shall we be. And just that interaction with her, it just created these characters of grace. So I always had the character of Isla, who is the may or may not be a mermaid,
Right.
and really started developing around this childhood friendship of really being that connection that I don't know if guys have it too, but when girls find that connection with somebody else, especially at that age, at the age of 12, when you're finding yourself, and you find the other person that you feel like is like your twin soul, your soul sister, your soulmate in some ways. And we had that for a really long time. And I thought it just really inspired, the friendship was really what inspired that to get started. And then the restaurant, there was always going to be the restaurant was always sort of there as a side character. But when um, while I was writing this, which was 2021, my dad passed away from COVID.
My condolences.
Thank you. And he was, he worked for BG&E. He was not a chef or
Right,
in any
right,
way,
right, right.
but he loved food, and he used to do these barbecue contests and these smoker contests at
Oh,
his house,
wow.
and he loved Dan, my partner, and he was like, "You guys have to help me open a restaurant one day," and just. I don't know if it was through the grieving process or just because it was where I was in the book. I can't remember if it was an intentional or if it just came out sort of organically. But Cleary's Crab Shack really just became this central point, and Grace comes back after her father passes, and is basically, the story is about this community of people, and Isla comes back as well. So coming home is a really big theme, really big theme. And
Was that your dad's thing, was seafood? Like, if he would have opened a restaurant, would he have wanted to do a seafood place?
I think I
Or is
did.
that just tie it to Maryland, really? I mean,
Well, I always wanted
gee,
it
I
to.
don't know. That's not really our thing in
Yeah, no,
in
I
Maryland.
always wanted it to be about Maryland. I wanted it to be in a Maryland crab shack because it was in the Chesapeake Bay. I wanted everything to be about the water, about midnight swims, about the sultry summer, that heat and sticky humidity. What I remember from, from night,
Oh, yeah.
summer. The magic of summer.
Did you know that I have a blue crab in my skin?
Really? Oh my God!
Yeah. He's climbing the Bromo Seltzer Tower from Baltimore.
Who does? That's a cool
I,
design.
I even have an egg custard snowball with marshmallow.
Oh my God, that's my
Right
mom's
here.
favorite.
Right here. I have egg custard with marshmallow. And then I have the Raven, the Oriole, the Maryland flag.
Wow.
Yeah. Did all that. I miss home. I always
True
miss home.
Marylander, yeah.
Yeah. I always miss home. And your book, though it wasn't our experience, it's like I said, it's still, I recognized the place. I recognized things about it. But to getting back to what you're saying, so your dad, so was there a catharsis in that for you? In like kind of writing about that? Because for a lot of people, writing makes you explore makes you explore the thoughts and everything, almost kind of like stepping outside of yourself, things that you may not have thought or things that you may not have said. This character gets to say. I mean, was it any of that for you? Was it cathartic or anything?
It was so cathartic, but probably in a slightly different way, in that it was more. I've lost a little bit of the, more like a tribute to the like diner. You mentioned diners, drive-ins, and dives. It was his absolute favorite, and I got to because I made him a restaurant owner, the restaurant owner, and I sort of made my dad into that character. I have a part where I have him not in the book, but it mentions the time that their restaurant was on diners, drive-ins, and dives. It's like, I wanted to make all of his like dreams that he would have had, the smoke off and the cook offs and stuff like that. They were really just sort of tributes to, just little shout outs and tributes to him, and that was really cathartic. But it was also like, it brought me a great deal of joy. and not sort of sadness. So, and of course that,
Well,
I mean, that the process of writing and the process of editing it happens for such a long time that, it really, you get to develop and go through those cathartic things in different stages. I think I wrote this book in 2021, finished it in 2022, and then I was signed by my publisher for a 2-book deal, and she decided to take both of them and
nice.
didn't go back to edit. So, you sort of sell your book, so there's nothing you can do with it. So I didn't actually, between the time I gave my editor, my publishing company, Maiden's Cove in 2022, I didn't see it again until 2024.
Wow.
So like a really big gap. So to go back to it, and that book didn't have an editor like Andrea had, so that one had quite a big editing process, which was really, really interesting and really exciting. But there was so much that I got to explore through, like, a few years later as well, and
Right.
that was really interesting too.
Can you imagine? I mean, you send off your words, and then you just kind of move on, and then they go, "Oh, by the way, did you remember you said this?" And you're like, "Wow, I'm pretty deep." Like, can you imagine? Wow.
I did. I had an event.
Quite insightful. Who knew? No, you just
like,
get your words
oh.
to come back to you. Look at that.
I had an event in October of last year for the arts festival here in Nelson for the Secrets of the Little Greek Taverna, but I'd been working all summer or all winter here on the Secrets of Maiden's Cove. And we went to a wedding, Dan and I went to his brother's wedding, and we were in Singapore and then Koh Samui with some of the family in Thailand. And I was like, I better reread my book, because because I was going to be asked the following week, I was going to be asked all these questions about the first book, and I'd been working on the second book. That's why I said I mix up character names. I'm writing my 4th book and editing my 3rd book simultaneously at the moment.
Wow.
It is not good for names. I'm just like I
So
keep
while these
typing
two
the
are
wrong
separate,
name.
do you have any callbacks to previous books in this 3rd book or 4th book? Do you have any ideas of? Because these two are rather separate. I don't think you have any repeating. You don't.
I did originally. Because they're standalone books. The only thing that connects the books are, well, the prologue. So the beginning prologue is the same in all the books, which is sort of this omniscient point of view, that's, sort of like honing in, like a film, like, oh, here's the world, and there are so many stories, and we're just gonna, like, hone in until you get down to this little story. And so this is the
Right.
story that we're gonna tell. Other than that, thematically, they are very similar in that their themes are very strong female friendship, little bit of romance, food, and a quirky cast of characters, because I love writing ensemble casts, but that
Right.
hint of magic, that really just that hint that just sort of permeates the books. So
Right.
otherwise they are standalone. But I did have one scene. It's just supposed to be one line in every book that sort of referenced the other, and I did have one, but I'm pretty sure it got cut in the end. It was just a really small scene about they were looking at a room that was decorated, and they saw Cindy St. James, which is Jory's mom, who's a decorator.
Got you.
But I think that was a past scene that ended up going in my 3rd book coming out, though. There is one. When you read it, you'll have to see if you can recognize it. I won't say what it is, but there is one very small line that references a character or two from another book, and my
Gotcha.
editor
You won't
saw
even
it
say
straight
what
away.
book
She's
it
like,
is.
I love this, and that's in there. So that was really fun.
Speaking of, we never even got to our snack, and I'm
Oh
sitting
my
here
God.
dying. I want some so bad. Smart food. This was always around. Smart food was big where we were from. When I was a kid, I ate a lot of it. But white cheddar popcorn, and we got them the last time. You had to get them. You had to get them shipped. Whereas I had to go to the Walgreens around the corner.
Well, I'll tell you, to you and all the people listening, Here's a little thing they don't tell you about being an expat. You will start craving food that you never even ate when you lived back in your country. Simply because it doesn't exist. I never had I had it, sure, but I never ate white cheddar popcorn. Really, like, I'm not a snacky person consistently, but whenever I go back to visit, I always open, my mom, like, shops for, like, 12 people, and there's just, like, one or two of us.
Yeah.
And, like, and also we're, like, in our 40s and 50s, so we can probably take care of ourselves, but it's like, when you go and stay with mom, it's like, no, mom's mom again. And she always has this thing, it's a different brand than this, of white cheddar popcorn. And for some reason, I just, like, my eyes sort of do that spinny thing, and I just, like, start annihilating, like, the whole bag at a time. And so I thought, oh man, well, I'm not a big snacky person, but for some reason, every time after I go home, I'm like, God, why can't I find white cheddar popcorn? I want white cheddar popcorn. There was one thing that I always wanted from the States that currently is not coming into New Zealand at all, and that's ranch dressing. We make ranch dressing here.
Really?
We make ranch dressing. There's a gazillion brands. Sorry, New Zealand. They're just not ranch. They're not ranch. They're not Hidden Valley.
Are they heavy on the dill? Are they heavy on the dill? Are they light on the dill?
They're just, like, tangy and light.
Yeah, dill
They're
is
just different.
kind of I think the trick is there. You have to have a right balance of dill and like buttermilk, like that. There's that tangy is a hard thing to nail, because I made homemade ones out of buttermilk, like buttermilk mayo and something, and it came out a little sharp, but
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard, but ranch dressing here is in the States, as you would say, is really,
it's just such a staple. I mean, like,
you
it's so
take it for
weird.
granted. You just take it
I
for granted.
know, and
Everywhere's
it's
got
things
ranch.
like that.
Everyone's gonna have ranch.
And you have no idea. So it wasn't, in the last couple of years, though, I found a couple sites. So when I said, I'm going to try and find white cheddar, let me go onto one of these sites, because I buy Old Bay seasoning. We're obsessed with Old Bay seasoning, Maryland. But Dan puts it on everything. He's like, he should have been born in Maryland,
Awesome.
and he's a Kiwi. So we found an internet. There's like 3 or 4 international food sites now that you can buy online that are like, they import. And it's so funny. It's like, it's always bad American food, but like good at the same time, like this popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went on to buy this popcorn, actually, I should tell you, I went to buy this popcorn this time, and I was like, well, I'm going to try shopping. Hidden Valley, still not available, which is really annoying. Stocked up on some Old Bay, because why not? Have to hit the free freight. And then I was like, I just decided to go through. And my New Zealand family here, Dan's family, asks me every single year, because obviously we don't do Thanksgiving. It's an American holiday. But every year they say, will you do a Thanksgiving dinner for us? And I'm like, can we even get a turkey? I don't know. And every year I say I will, and I never have. But just in case, this year I found on the international food site stovetop stuffing, which I don't care how good your homemade recipe is. For me, stovetop stuffing is the only stuffing that should be eaten. And I also, and every year they ask, what about pumpkin pies? We can get some pumpkins. And I'm like, yeah, pumpkin pie, the only pumpkin pie, I'm sorry, is just this, it's like out of a can. And they're like, what? It's not pumpkin? I was like, it's probably like a pumpkin spice latte. It's this stuff. I don't know. I can't explain it. Can't get it here. Anyway, I got it on this site. I got 2 of those Libby's tins of pumpkin pie mix.
Nobody's eating pumpkin pie for the pumpkin. You're eating it for the spice. Like the flavor. The flavor of pumpkin pie spice is what people associate with pumpkin, but pumpkin by itself is nothing. There's nothing to it.
No, we actually eat a lot of pumpkin here, like just roasted pumpkins, very nice. But I'm like, no, if you guys, so I bought enough that I can make 4 pumpkin pies for people for Christmas this year. Proper American pumpkin pies, which are Libby's eggs and evaporated milk or something like that.
Right.
So I was very excited to have to go back and get more white cheddar popcorn.
That is so cool. We went to Ireland this past not this summer or so, about a year ago, this past June, and they had a little place in the mall in Dublin called Munch Diddley's, and they had all American snacks, and I was just purely fascinated because I don't know what your exchange rate is for the dollar down there, but the euro at the time was pretty close to the dollar.
No.
I mean, $1.20 versus buck, something like that, you know. But they had a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese on the shelf. €6. Six.
Wow.
They had a container of Reese's Peanut Butter Cup miniatures, €35.
Oh my God.
I said, if I lived there, I could see paying for that. But I have to tell you, that is the land of Cadbury.
Yeah.
And once we tried that, we came back and Hershey's tasted like oil. We were so spoiled rotten. We were eating chocolate almost every day. We were drinking
Wow.
Guinnesses and eating chocolate every single day because the chocolate
Good
was
pair.
so amazing over there. So amazing.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get enough of it. And we couldn't get enough of the meats and the fruits and the fruit spreads. I mean, you aren't going to find Smuckers over there, man. You're going to find crushed fruit in a jar. Like, it was incredible. I mean, is that the way it is in New Zealand? I mean, particularly you being the restaurant thing, is it a lot more just Whole Foods just happen? Because in America, it's all processed. It's so much processed food.
There's definitely more of a focus on seasonal, fresh produce. And the biggest reason for that, like, one thing that's really different in the US, or like somewhere like Australia, is that you've got sort of different microclimates. So, you know, you can get fruits that aren't seasonal in certain parts of the states that are seasonal in Florida, like oranges, for example.
Right.
Our country doesn't have that, and it's too expensive for us to import it. I mean, we do import things, but they are, you know, quite a bit more expensive. But the focus is really more on anything New Zealand grown, which means you do eat a lot more seasonally here. I would love to. I mean, I'm in the restaurant industry, so it's, you know, it's really hard to, you know, I'm sort of surrounded by food and people that, you know, eat seasonally and don't eat a whole lot of like processed food because we have access to a different type of food. But I know I have a lot of friends who go through the drive-through of McDonald's for dinner on the way home as well. So
to touch on your childhood friend there, your childhood friend in the book in Maiden's Cove, swimming.
yes,
That's when kids keep their legs together, you know, and swim.
Yes.
And my daughter is super into that right now. I mean, has been for like we were just doing that, or if she was just doing that, I can't do it. This last trip to Maryland back at 4th of July, we were staying at a little hotel in Arundel Mills that had a pool, and she was swimming, and I'm a mermaid, and you're the big bad, you know, monster of the sea, and I was like, okay, you know, and so, but she goes, she saw a video online on YouTube Kids or whatever, where it was where parents and children have a YouTube channel, and it's horrible acting. And it's one of those things. Well, they were turning into mermaids, and they had this like bathing suit thing that would act as a mermaid's tail. So it would keep your legs together and all that stuff. And she's like, can we get one? Can we get one? I'm like, you barely know how to tread water with your legs free. No. So she's so big on that. So when she said, can I read one of those books? She literally asked me, can I read one of these books? I'm trying to read bigger books. Are they okay? I said, yeah, they're fine, you know. And she's like, well, when you're done with it, I would like to read it.
How
so I'm
old
going
is
to give
she?
her. She's 9.
Yeah. So my cousin Kristen, I gave a really big you know, Andrea and I the summer things, but my cousin Kristen was, you know, we literally know each other from birth. We're a few months apart. and we, when The Little Mermaid came out, we were just absolutely obsessed, as any girl should have been back in the 80s. And we would practice swimming all the time. And my cousin Katie as well, who's a little bit younger. Yeah, the swimming thing, I was just, yeah, I think that's actually where the mermaid idea came up. I think we were joking about it like 25 years ago when I was back home for a visit, like still living in LA.
Wow.
And we we were like jumping in the waves, and he was like, "Do you remember when we used to immerse swim?" And I really sort of into magical realism, and I was writing at the time, and I thought, "Oh, I've got this idea for this book," which turned into 25 years later, Maiden's Cove. But yeah, so the immerse swimming was a really big shout out, and practicing the immerse swimming and nighttime swims. But her daughter, my niece Charlie, is, I think they're reading it together, and
Yep.
I think she might be a little bit older. I think she might be 13, but she is also. Kristen said that, yeah, they're really into immerse swimming. The younger girls these days, just like we were as kids, and it's really cool. They've
Right.
got all these cool
Hmm.
costumes, and I'm sure Charlie like wanted a costume, and me and Kristen and Katie were like, "I want one,
Yep. That's
one
what
for me."
she was
Yeah.
talking about. So the thing I was saying about the anchor points with the restaurants and you being a restaurateur, but
Mhm.
I love both the Greek Taverna and the Crab Shack is save the Crab Shack, protect the tavern. I like that in both of the books. I like that you're like, we won't let them take this place. We won't, I like that. I like that you have that. That has always been one of my things in movies where you have to save Empire Records or
Yeah.
the hotel and Playing for Keeps. You get to just everybody gets together and coat a paint, and I've always been a sucker for those things. And so when
Oh,
you're having this,
I know, me too. We're probably products of our generation. The 80s really did that very well, and early and 90s. But no, I've always been like that too. And I mean, like you said earlier, and very much I've realized that my first three books, which are, I will talk a little bit about my third book if you want later, but they'll be the three in the Secret series. And if you had to just pick one running theme, it would be about healing, especially about the
yeah,
healing power of people coming together. And so, like, with the restaurant thing, saving the restaurants, and the Little Greek Taverna was, um, more about, heal how these women could come together and give Cressida the hope that she could still have her dreams in her life, even though she lost her husband, and opening the taverna and getting it all ready. And of course, I, used a lot of my, waitressing thoughts in there. Like, what do I have to do to get a restaurant ready? Because I've opened a couple of them now. My third one's opening in 2 weeks. But interestingly,
congrats.
because we talked a bit about this earlier with the editing of book two, so the second book, the Crab Shack and the food and everything, the tie with my dad was always in there. But it wasn't actually until I went back and did the editing, because there was a lot of rewriting there, that I developed the concept of the restaurant actually being about to close. And the reason is because, again, it was 2 years later, and I'm a restaurateur, had just gone through COVID and was feeling the real pressure of it. I mean, we still feel the pressure of it, with the borders being closed, and being able to actually write that. I don't want to say an actual experience that I was having, but that, like you just said, these are what restaurants have probably been the thing that have suffered in some ways the most from the COVID pandemic.
I would say, yeah.
In a lot of ways, so many places closed, and they closed so many years later than you would expect them to, because you're still catching up on all of that. And it was really interesting to be able to, when I was doing the editing and just fleshing it out, really just building it, to talk really openly about, like, what happened to the restaurant. How could this staple be in the red? And so, well, COVID happened. Like, this is the world that we live
Yep.
in now. This is the competition. This is what it's like for people right now in 2024, and working in restaurants. And then of course we have to save the day, and everybody has to get together and save the day, and do 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 do.
I
But
love
yeah,
it.
but yeah, that was really interesting, and that was sort of what I was hinting at earlier when I said, it's interesting coming back to your book a couple of years later, and what
Hmm.
fleshes it out then. So there's such a multiple part process of some books, not of all. My third book that I'm editing now is is very similar from the first draft that I sent, Probably because by that time you're writing with your editors in your head, going do 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 do
Correct.
do, and then you're like, I have my copy editor, Diane. I remember my very first copy edit, because your editor works on it first. You do content edits, and then I thought the copy editor was the proofreader. That's not. The copy editor is basically, once you get the content part down, the copy editor, I call her my no bullshit filter. Like,
There
she
you go.
basically is like, we'll come in and be like, your character was sassy last paragraph and now you're making her weak. That's not like her. Like, it's that, like
There
the
you
no,
go.
you
Hold you
could
accountable.
hold you accountable for everything that you write and do. And I remember I got my copy edit back, and I was, for my first book, and I was a little like it was just, there was so much. I thought I was proofreading. I thought I was almost done. No, it was like the big part. And I was reading through, so they use this editing program, and you sort of accept their changes, and then when they have a question, there's these little boxes, and you have to click on that and then resolve the thread and maybe do some rewrites and changes. And they always highlight when you have repeats. Sometimes they just, like, first couple of pages, Diane would just, like, when I had repeated words 3 times in the same paragraph.
Right.
Just like scratch them out, and then I accept the change and accept the change. Well, by about like the next couple pages, I realized that she wasn't taking them out. She was just highlighting them so that I would see how many there were on one page. And then I was like, okay. And the word was always laughed. Laughed, 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 laughed. Like,
But
she
you
laughed,
do. You
he
laugh
laughed,
all the
she
time.
laughed, he laughed, she laughed. Finally, about 3 pages in, she had a note box that just said, your characters laugh, full stop, a lot, full stop. No smiley face, not impressed, and it was not a compliment. It's like, so by the time I was writing book 3, I was like, she said, fine. She didn't laugh this time. And I'll delete my laughs and my exclamation points out and keep them like 50% of it. She did make a comment, the last one. She said, you're doing really well with the whole laughing thing. There's still a little bit too much, but you're getting there. So it is funny. But yeah, book two was
So it's like she's
definitely a
training you
process.
to be a different writer, like the ruler tap, like no, and then you're just like, you
Yeah.
gotta train yourself. You
get trained
stand up
to be a
straight,
better
stand up
writer.
straight. She's
Yeah,
putting the books on your
It's
head.
exactly what
Walk
it's like.
forward,
But
posture.
it's really important for your writing career if you plan to have an expansive writing career. And I love to write,
Right.
so I hope to have an expansive writing career. If they don't get published, I'll still write and write and write. Doesn't matter.
Oh no, you're gonna
But
do great. You're gonna have a
yeah,
great.
but oh, thank you.
There's no reason why they wouldn't get published. I mean, in 2 books, your voice is pretty good and established. You say you're on your 4th one now.
Yes. First
Well,
draft.
I'm saying you're right. You're starting your 4th one.
Yeah.
And so once you find your voice, which I mean, you're laughing a lot less, so voice will be. And I'm joking. So you'll find your voice, and I mean that's basically what makes an author. I said it right that time. What makes an author the one you go back to. I don't think the voice. From like I said, the little bit I didn't get to read all of Greek Taverna, but Maiden's Cove. I don't think the voice. I think your writing style is already quite established. I mean, thank your editors or you or whatever, but I feel like it can keep going. I mean,
Oh, well,
why
thank
not?
you.
You understand the past. You write for the present. I really, really can't wait to share it with my daughter. You have a great sense of adventure. You have a great sense of, but you paint a scene so well that like I'm like, boy, she's really gonna fall for this. She's really gonna fall in love with this, and I'm like, oh crap, So maybe I won't. Maybe I won't just yet, unless she can convince her mother to let us all move back to Maryland, because Lord knows I miss it. You might save me. You might save me with your book.
Well,
Because if I get Bridget on board, I think I could sell her. I totally do.
Well, I will say that, The Secrets of the Little Greek Taverna was one that we knew that people would want to go to Greece after they read it. Everybody wants to go to Greece. But when I read a review after somebody had read The Secrets of Maiden's Cove, because let's be honest, Maryland isn't on everybody in the world's top list of places to go, whereas Greece might
No.
be. And when I read a review that said, I want to be nowhere else except the Maryland Eastern Shore and at the mystical Maiden's Cove, I was just like, I wanted to create a sense of place. And that sounds, you want to go to Maryland now on your holiday?
Right.
That's a win.
Right. When you land in BWI, just keep your eyes closed till you hit about Route
Yeah,
50.
the Bay
And then
Bridge.
open your eyes.
When you
It's
get to the Bay
gorgeous.
Bridge, you'll be good.
Right. When you hit 50, you start coming down right there where it's like Bay Bridge or Annapolis. Just then open your eyes, you know. No, but it's a really, like I said, if it you might just get me out of Charleston just yet. No, I'm just just saying. But no, the like I said, the reconnecting, as I know you to be a world traveler, as I know you to be in the restaurant. I know you write from what you know, but also you are challenging yourself. You are challenging yourself to push out into what you maybe don't necessarily know. Like I said, writing mothers and daughters, writing marriages, you know, 'cause, I mean, your partner
Yep.
and you, I don't believe you're married, you know, so you're challenging yourself to write these situations, which I mean, are relatable. I mean, people, if you read your reviews, people do get it. People understand it. So I guess you're not a passenger. You're not so much a passenger in your life as you are an observer, you know, and you seem to be drawing from the experiences and relating and all that stuff. And it's very good. I mean, like it's gifted writing. If you're writing from what you know, but not solely from what you know, you're writing from like other experiences or writing from what it must be like to be going through that experience. I just think that's really cool. I think
Well, thank
I think
you.
you're gonna win big. I can't see you not winning big, you know? And and you know, I will take some credit if you do make it big. If you make it bigger, I'll be like, you know, I might have had a little bit to do with that. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. But I'm so proud of you. I really, really want all your dreams come true with this because I don't know. I mean, dreaming and fantasy and all that stuff is what you like, and so create your own. I mean, like personally, create your own in your life.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You
I'm
know?
so proud of you too. And yes, I think so long as you love what you're doing, and not that it's always easy, there's a lot of challenges,
No,
but so long
always
as you love it, then you have to keep going because it's your passion and your joy. And yeah, and I love it.
the third book. So when that comes out, I guess in 2028. No, I'm just joking. However long these books take.
No, no, no. That so it's we're doing a book a year, so that'll come out.
Oh, okay, okay.
It'll come out in New Zealand. It probably, if it comes out in the US, it'll be May of next year. They usually come out in May, right in time for summer. But in
Then
New
I will have
Zealand
you
in
back.
February.
I will have you back in here for that book. Or back in here. I will have you back on here. No,
Thank
I will
you.
ship you.
I
I
will
will
be.
ship you and smart food popcorn to this set. No, I will have you back on for that third book. Absolutely. As soon as it's available. Um I mean, I may just order it when it becomes available over there. You know, because it'll still be on Amazon, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I'll probably
dates up in the air, but yeah, next year. So very
yeah, and
excited.
I could be one of the cool kids, be like, hey America, you don't know about this yet, but I do.
Yeah.
Boom. Cutting edge snacking and yakking there.
Exactly.
No, but Erin, where can people find you? You said Instagram earlier. Where
Yes.
in a social media sense?
You can visit my website, which is www.erinpalmisano.com.
Okay.
I have a handle on Instagram and Facebook, which is just author Erin Palmisano. And I think it's author Erin Palmisano or just Erin Palmisano. And yeah, you can buy my books at Barnes and Noble through the country, sometimes at Target and Walmart online, Amazon. Just have to look in your region, and but it's also on Kindle, and shortly, I think both books may be on Kindle Unlimited for those of you who have that for the next
Oh
few months,
boy,
which
boy,
will be very
boy.
exciting. So I hope that
I
you
don't want
enjoy
to get my
them.
white cheddar. I don't want to get my white cheddar hands on them, but these are the books. If you want to see them, they're very pretty. Very pretty covers, very pretty pastels, all looking like a sunset and sky. But they're wonderful books, and Reach out to Erin if you like them. She loves to hear that you liked them. Keep your negative comments to yourself. No, I'm just joking. No, she's as approachable as I've made her look here today. So you definitely could reach out to her and say hey, or how you enjoyed her works, and she's the person that you see right here on this screen. She's just as wonderful as I remember her. So please do that. And once again, thank you for snacking and yakking with us. And I will see you guys next week. I will see you very soon.
I'm
If
looking
not
forward to
before
it.
next February when the next book comes out, sooner than that, I'll just chat with you.
We'll be in touch.
All right.
It's been
Love you,
great
hon.
being here today. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So many snacks. So many snacks. Hi. Well, thank you for watching another episode of Snackin and Yakkin. Do you want to be one of these names scrolling up the screen right now? Or maybe one of these photos in the frame right here? Well, it's very simple. You just join our Patreon. That's patreon.com/snackinyakkin. Membership levels start at $5 and go up to $15, and there's more perks the higher that you go. And let's face facts, you'd probably spend $5 on Starbucks or Subway next month anyway, right? But for your membership, it helps this show go. So thank you so much for stopping by patreon.com/snackinyakkin. And now, consider watching one of these two videos right here and going through the channel because there's plenty of show to go. And thank you for coming with me on my journey as I do some more